let's get familiar with the buttons and indicators on the Pfaff Performance 5.2. Now there's a reason that these buttons are right at your fingertips, because they have figured out that these are the most important features that people are always using. So again, giving them their own specific button, not on the touch screen, not layered or buried. So let's go in and really help understand what they are good for. So first off, what we do have is the presser foot up and extra lift toggle. So what that means is right now the presser foot is up, but if I push it again, it goes up even higher, and there's a little click that you heard, and that's actually the feed dogs lowering. So when they go ahead and lower, there's more room. I mean, gosh, I can get quite a bit of my hands underneath here. That's how high it is. Great for extra fabric thickness. But as soon as I start to sew, everything will go all the way down. Oh, I am on here we go, get back here. I was pushing around. I was going backwards without me doing anything, and that's because I had turned on the reverse button, and from where I was sitting, I couldn't see that this light was actually on. So let's go ahead and talk about that. As you're sewing, you can, while you're sewing, just touch and hold the reverse button, and it will do like you're used to doing. But if you touch it and the light is on, it's like it's in continuous reverse as you stitch. And then a touch of it again, and it will turn itself off. Now, one thing I do use a lot is the needle stopping in the down position. So when this is on, you can kind of see that that is green, that the needle stops down and the presser foot will stop in the slightly raised position, which is a great feature. If I push the presser foot up button, I can keep that needle down and the foot will come up a little bit higher there. And I can put the presser foot back down if I chose to, also with the button. This is also something you can turn off in the settings menu. So if you go over here and go into automatic presser foot lift, we undo that little checkbox, then when it stops with the needle down, you notice the foot doesn't come up. So if you aren't used to that, or maybe one project is not lending itself to be that way, turn it off. And of course, anything that you turn off will be remembered when you turn the machine off and come back the next day. So just remember what you've turned off and what you haven't, because that is kind of a permanent setting until you change it otherwise. Now we should be back, there we go, to the pivot position. Now your thread snips are probably the one you're going to use the most. As the little picture indicates, the scissors is going to cut the thread and lift the presser foot up and leave you with just that single thread from the needle. The bobbin thread's kind of left down below, and that's perfect, because as soon as you start to sew, and keep in mind you do not have to push that presser foot lifter down button to start. You can just step on the foot control. That foot's going to come down. So if this is getting to, you don't have to, but you sure can. Let me show you one more thing about that I do like. For the presser foot down option, if I push it, it will go down. But if I push it again, it pops up just a little bit. You probably can't see it, but right now my fabric is fairly loose. So if I'm trying to find the right place to start, that's a great way to get close to the fabric, and you can see it a little bit easier, and then start to sew when you're ready. The foot will go back down. Right here is a start-stop button, or a go button. So without having to step on my foot control, I am controlling the machine with this button. For any reason you forget to take along your foot control, there is a way to use this machine with the start-stop button, which leads me to talk about the speed. So here's the speed. So you can watch right up here in the corner. You can see where it can actually be where it's set. But I want you to look at something really close here, and it's the arrow in this lower right corner. This shows up from time to time. Here it is over here on the trash can. That indicates that when you touch it, okay, with a long hold, you get something else. You get another screen. What you actually get with this one is a slider bar of being able to adjust how fast you're actually sewing. So sometimes when I am using the button to use and not my foot control, I'll slow the machine down just a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead and let's see, we've done some of those. Needle down. There is a button that is set up for let's see here. This one is the stitch restart by its exact name. So let me actually pick a pattern that has kind of a start and stop. We'll just do this one here. So let's say I'm sewing along and I want it to stop. I can push that. What it does is it finishes the pattern and stops for me. And my foot is actually still on the foot control, which is awesome. Now I don't have half of a stitch. That'll make more obvious when you're working with some of these decorative stitches up here. You don't want half of a heart or half of a scallop. You can get it to end just as it is. Now, another use is that if you're sewing along and you're like, oh darn, that's not what I wanted, but you need to be back at the beginning of the pattern. While you're stopped, push it, and you'll notice there's a little green plus that comes back to the beginning of that stitch. And now you're ready to restart, by its exact name, restart the pattern back at the beginning and not have to start halfway through. So there's kind of two uses of this particular restart button. One, if you're actually doing it while you're sewing, and one, if you touch it when you're not sewing. Now, let's go back to, well, we'll just use this stitch. I'm sewing along. One of the things you can have is a little tie-off. That's what this little function is an immediate tie-off. So you can, at any given time, have a locking stitch, just kind of the needle going up and down a couple times, and then you can tie it off. So that's a nice feature that you can do. So even too, when you're in a straight stitch, so let's just move forward, and we engage it, you'll notice that it will do a little tiny tack, and then you can start. So you've got lots of ways to use these functions. You just need to experiment with the way you sew, kind of like how I was doing, playing around. Okay, it does this when I push it here, or does this when I push it while I'm sewing. So you can use these buttons, functions, to the fullest.